couple days ago we found x and y intercepts for lines, and we did that by plugging in 0 for y when we were finding the x-intercept and plugging in 0 for x when we were finding the y-intercept. And then we'd write them down as points and use those points to graph the line. Well, we can do the same thing with these quadratic functions. The quadratic functions are the one that come in ax squared plus bx equals c. It's the same concept. It's just a little more difficult because when I do the x-intercept, I'm going to have to factor to solve. The y-intercept, however, is a piece of cake. In fact, very easy. And so in the layout, I have ax squared plus bx plus c. To find the x-intercept, I factor and solve, and I'll set it equal to 0. I usually get two different x's, the first x and the second x answer, two different answers. Sometimes I only get one answer depending on the equation or whatever. Sometimes I'm not even going to be able to factor. We'll get into that at a different time. But if I am able to factor, solve, I'll get my 2 points. The y-intercept is just the c, and that's it. So if I'm going to find my x and my y-intercepts on this first example, the y-intercept, like I said, super easy. It's just that end number. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 12. Because what happens is 0 squared is 0, minus 0, I end up with the functioning equaling just negative 12. So y-intercept, if you can't do anything else, like if you forgot how to factor and you're not able to do this, you don't get anything else, you should be able to find the y-intercept very easily by finding the c. And so the x-intercept is where we have to use our skills in factoring, and that's where we do that snowflake method that we've done multiple times now. We've seen it come back. So if there's a number in front, remember I multiply the front and the last, so negative 12 on top, negative 1 on the bottom. I have 1x and 1x. I want to find two numbers that when I multiply them I get negative 12, when I add them I get negative 1. Some of you are getting very good at this. So my two equations are x minus 4 equals 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. And so I don't know why I put that in parentheses, but I would add 4 on both sides. So x is 4. I would subtract 3 on both sides, just solving of equation. X is negative 3. So my x-intercepts are 4, 0 and negative 3, 0. And then later on we're going to get into how we use these to graph a quadratic function. But again, it's basically c is your y-intercept, that one's the easy one, and then your x-intercept is factor and solve, the two things that you get from factoring. So again, I'm going to go through this. Y-intercept, I'm going to abbreviate that now, y-int is 0, c, whatever number is in c position, and then my x-intercept is where I have to do my snowflake. So in here it's 2 times 11, 13 on the bottom, I do 2x and 2x, and then two numbers that multiply to be 22 add to be 13, I get 11 and 2. 2 times 11 is 22, 11 plus 2 is 13. One or both will be able to be simplified, in this case just this one on the, for me, on the right. And so my two equations are 2x plus 11 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. So this one's a two-step equation. I'm going to have to do 2 steps to get my answer, minus 11 on both sides, so 2x equals negative 11. Then I'll divide by 2, x is negative 11 halves. I just leave it like that. When we graph it, we'll convert it into something else, but I'm just going to leave it like that. And I would suggest you do the same. That's perfectly fine. When I'm solving the other side, I get my other values, so my x-intercepts are negative 11 halves, 0, and negative 1, 0. One last thing that I just want to discuss before I let you kind of go on your own, and that is if you have a negative number in front, or it just starts with negative, what I always like to do is factor that -1 out. So this is x squared plus 10x plus 16. What it does is it changes all of the signs of everything. Now that's for when I am factoring, but I'm still going to use the c here as my y-intercept. So I want to factor the -1 out when I'm going to find the x-intercept, but I'm still going to use it in its original form when I'm going to find the y-intercept. So my y-intercept, again, easy peasy. That's that last number. It's 0, -16. But then my x-intercept, I'm going to work with that after I pulled the -1 out. So this is 16 on the top, 10 on the bottom, x and x. Two numbers that multiply to be 16 add to be 10. I've got 2 and 8. So it's x plus 2 equals 0, x plus 8 equals 0, x is -2, x is -8. Oops. So again, when I talk about my x-intercepts, I write them as a point. It would be -2, 0, and -8, 0. So it shouldn't be totally new what we're doing, it's just how we're interpreting it that's a little bit different. So the factoring you've done, and again, some of you I know are getting very good at doing that snowflake. Now I need to use those solutions, and again, we're going to move this up next, is we're going to be using these x and y intercepts to actually sketch a graph. Kind of like we sketched a line, we'll sketch a quadratic.